It is Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, and that means it is mock draft time right here on the Packers Report. I'm your host, Joey Petersen, and coming up, we've got my 7th mock draft of the offseason. All 7 rounds, all 8 picks are coming at you very, very soon. But if you haven't been with us for the entirety of this offseason, let me just give you a recent rundown of my last 6 mock drafts and who I've taken in the first round of each of those. Matthew Golden, the most recent one, James Pierce Jr. in the 5th, Luther Burden in the 4th, Shamar Stewart in the 3rd, Michael Williams in my 2nd one, and Jack Sawyer was my first round pick in my first mock draft going into the 2025 offseason. And if you notice anything about that list, I think that the Packers need an edge rusher, okay? And I think they need one bad. I hope you agree with me because a little bit of a hint, I'm going edge rusher again in this first round, but it's one that I haven't done yet, one I'm incredibly excited about. Make sure to stick around. But before that, let's get better on the channel, okay? That's what I want to do every single time I make a video. Last mock draft, we had 83 likes. That's not good enough. That's not good at all. Mock Draft 7.0, let's double that number, 166 likes. We're trying to get 2 times as good every single time we do a video. You guys can help me out by hitting that thumbs up button and making sure we're getting better every single video. In the first round selection, pick number 23, the Green Bay Packers select Mike Green, edge rusher out of Marshall. And if you can't hear it by my small little scream there when talking about Marshall, Mike Green is my dream draft pick. I absolutely love Mike Green and the prospect that he is. I am so excited for whichever team lands Mike Green. Hopefully it's the Green Bay Packers to see what he turns into at this next level because I think he can be an absolute stud. Let's get into the scouting report, okay? There were some questions about how he would hold up against the run. However, he had very little issues at the Senior Bowl. He was one of the biggest risers in all of college football this past year. He's a very impressive athlete, but this is the best part because he has even better production. We've talked a lot about James Pierce Jr. on this channel. We've talked a lot about Michael Williams on this channel. We've talked a decent bit about Shamar Turner, about Shamar Stewart, and all those guys, they're all the same story. Very great athletes, very high ceilings, but the production was a little bit limited this past season. Mike Green, that's not the case. If you look at his 2024 stats, 81 freaking tackles, 23 for loss, 17 sacks, and almost 60 pressures. Dude was an absolute menace. You could not block him if you tried, and he absolutely dominated in his senior year. Grade the pick for me, all right? I'm going to break it down a little bit more, but before I do that, you go ahead, give me your grade, be the teacher, A, B, C, D, or F on this selection. Let me know. Be honest. Get down in the comment section. All right, let's go to round 2. Pick number 54. Give me Darian Porter, cornerback out of Iowa State. It was at this selection I had a choice between either Darian Porter or Benjamin Morrison. I went with Porter because I think the upside is a little bit higher. It might be a little bit more of a risk, but I'm really excited about what he might turn into at the next level. Let's hear from Trevor Sikkema of PFF. He said, Porter is a rare prospect. He's a wide receiver turned cornerback with ideal ball skills. He ranks above the 95th percentile in height and length and an elite track background that translates to the field. I mean, this dude is absolutely off the charts when it comes to all the things that you can't really teach. And it showed up on the field. 17 attempts at him, only 5 completions, under 100 yards, 3 pass breakups, an interception, and no, that's not a typo, my friends, a 4.7 quarterback rating. What I really love about Porter is he seems like a really, really great scheme fit here in Green Bay because he excels in zone coverage. He had a 90 PFF grade in zone coverage in 2024. And Green Bay last year had the second highest percentage of snaps in zone defense last season at 70.7. This is a guy that's plug and play. This is a guy that could be in that starting lineup come week 1. He's a guy I have a ton of promise in going into the National Football League. Let's get a wide receiver, though. And we're going to get one in round 3, pick number 87 when Green Bay selects Trey Harris, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Trey Harris is one of those dudes who just had ridiculous production in his 4 years at college. Probably the best production of any wide receiver in this draft, okay? First 2 years were at Louisiana Tech, where after a 935-yard season, Lane Kiffin poached him out of Louisiana, brought him up north to the state of Mississippi, where he put back-to-back almost 1,000-yard seasons, 15 yards short in 2023, got over at about 30 yards in 2024, but that was only in 8 games played. 1,000 yards in 8 games for Trey Harris. And the most impressive thing is it's not like he was the only go-to option in that offense, both on the ground or in the air. I mean, he played in a really stacked unit and absolutely dominated. Again, 1,000 yards in just 8 games. Very, very impressive. Really excited to see how that translates in the National Football League. He's on the bigger side of wide receivers. He's not one of those small guys. He has a massive catch radius. I really, really like Trey Harris in the 3rd round. I love that selection. Let me know down below, not in the comments section, but you can go ahead and hit that thumbs up button if you love these mock drafts, okay? You know how they say the cops follow the money? Well, we follow the likes. And if you guys like a video, that means you like the video, and that means we'll do more of them. So if you love this kind of content, go ahead and prove it to me by hitting that thumbs up button. Let's go corner again. This one's a little bit of a different kind of corner style than Darian Porter. And I really, really like this guy, Mello Dotson out of the University of Kansas, cornerback with the pick number 124. Let's talk about what I love about Dotson, okay? And there's really 3 things that really turned me on to him as a prospect. His man coverage grade of 70.4. And I know I just talked about how Green Bay plays a lot of zone, and that is true. However, you're possibly, and we still don't know at the time of this recording, losing a guy like Jair Alexander, and so you need someone to be able to step up in man coverage. He had 11 interceptions the last 3 seasons, absolute ball hawk. And the great thing is, the absolute opposite of what Jair Alexander is, he hasn't missed a game in the last 3 years. Incredibly durable at a position that's really hard to be durable in with how many times you're laterally moving, making sharp movements. And the fact that his knees, ankles, legs, everything's held up over the last 3 years, very, very impressive. Let's go on to round 5. Pick number 159. Give me Simeon Barrow Jr., the defensive lineman out of the U. Simeon Barrow is a guy I think is flying under a lot of draft radars. He's a guy I haven't heard many people talk about yet. At pick number 159, he's still available, and I'm not really thinking twice about picking him. This defensive line needs something that we like to call depth, because they don't have much of it. And what I love about Barrow is he could be depth really at any spot on that line. He lined up in the A gap 87 times, the B gap 218. It's definitely where he was used most. But then he was over the tackle 97 times and outside of the tackle 17. Okay, so he's a guy you could really put anywhere you need to on that defensive line. He joined a really solid group of Rashawn Gary, Devontae White, Kenny Clark, and Kingsley Enagbari, possibly Mike Green as well if this mock draft comes to fruition. However, we're all very, very confident in the starters, at least in their ability to be solid players, but it's where the depth gets a little bit shaky. It's exactly what Barrow can help shape up going into 2025. Let's go into round 6. Speaking of depth, let's go ahead and get someone on the offensive line. That's Dylan Fairchild, offensive guard out of the University of Georgia. And offensive line is a lot like defensive line for this team, in my opinion, okay? A lot of starters that you are somewhat confident in, especially on the outsides and the tackles. Elston Jenkins going to that center spot, still a massive question mark. But it's the guys behind them that kind of leave you scratching your head, kind of leave you a little bit nervous. You know, if one of those guys goes out, who knows who's going to come in and fill that role? Green Bay just needs depth on the offensive line. That's exactly what Dylan Fairchild can give you. Played a lot of ball at Georgia. Was a really solid starter for that team for a very, very long time. And I think that anybody coached by Kirby Smart is a guy that I think can translate to be somewhat of a good pro. Okay, I'm not saying Fairchild's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. What I am saying is he could be what this team needs, and that's a little bit security in the offensive line. Be honest with me. What's your confidence level? The Packers offensive line. It was a top 6 unit in 2024. How do you feel about it going into 2025? Scale that confidence for me from 1 to 100. 100 meaning you think they're going to be the best offensive line in the league. 1 meaning you think they're going to be the worst. Let me know in the comments section. I know you're already set at running back with Josh Jacobs and all, but let's get another JJ in there. Jaquindon Jackson out of the University of Arkansas. Woo Pig Suey, ladies and gentlemen. And Ja'Quinden Jackson is one of those guys who I'm really, really high on. I thought everything that he showed this past year in Arkansas, he showed really, really good, promise of what he might turn into at the next level. He spent his first 3 seasons in college at Utah and then transferred to be a Hog and got 149 carries, 790 yards. He also found pay dirt 15 times. What I love most about Jackson is he's a different type of back. He's 6'2". Manuel Wilson, Josh Jacobs, both those guys are smaller types, 5 foot. Okay, you don't see a lot of 6'2" backs in the league these days. And I think Ja'Quinden Jackson, sure, he could kind of have a tendency to run a little bit high because of that height. But if he gets his pad level down, he's incredibly quick. He knows where the holes are. He's very, very fast reading of a defense. I really, really like him. I think he'd be a solid backup option for Green Bay and make this offense just a little bit more dynamic. 7th round selection, pick number 250, last pick in the NFL draft. Green Bay selects Elijah Alston, pass rusher out of Miami. And this is more one of those picks, if I'm being honest with you, that kind of feels more like a flyer to me. Alston, I think, could have a decently high ceiling, definitely higher than a 7th round, but his floor is like a guy who doesn't get drafted, a guy who spends maybe a year and a half in the league. He had some pretty solid PFF grades, a 73.5 pass rush grade, run defense grade of 75.9, so you know he's good in both spots. You're not just going to get him on 3rd downs. You're not just going to get him on first. His pass rush win rate was impressive as well at 12.0 seconds. For those of you that don't know, a pass rush win rate is basically what percent of the times do you win your pass rush rep? Do you beat your blocker before 3 seconds? You can do it then. That's a win. 12.0%, that's not bad at all. And I just think more competition in that room is a good thing. We need somebody to step up on the edge this year. Whether that's Lucas Van Ness, whether that's Rashawn Gary, whether that's, anybody, Elijah Alston, I don't care who it is. Good competition only means good things for a unit, especially one that was lacking in 2024. Pick one for me. Of all those picks, all 8 selections, which pick was your favorite? I think mine's Mike Green in the 1st, or I really like Trey Harris in the 3rd. You let me know your opinion in the comment section down below. While you're down there, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join us for the best Packers coverage you're going to find right here on YouTube. If you're already with us, do me a favor. Share this with a friend. Follow me on Twitter. Like the video. Do all those things. Sorry, ask you to do a lot. Make sure you hit that sub button before you get out of here.